Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to Picks and Pours, episode 25. Today is Thursday, May 2nd. April came and went in the blink of an eye, and we are on the verge of I don't know if that's the alarm letting us know that the show's starting. We are on the verge of UFC 301 from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The first pay-per-view since the epic UFC 300. It's going to be hard to top. It's going to be hard to even hype this pay-per-view up, but we're going to do our darndest here and make some picks and drink some whiskey and have some fun. Before we get into any of that, let me introduce from all the way across town, Matt, the mechanic. What's going on, Matt?
Not much, Bill. Before we get to UFC 301, I think we need to discuss my performance from last week.
Yeah, and how it was affected by my influence. So you would have had a clean sweep if it wasn't for me.
Correct. And that would be the second one in a month. And I think that's something.
Yeah, I think we need to start betting against my picks, maybe. I don't know, man. As long as I've been doing this and training and analyzing and whatever you call the thing I do on this podcast, I'm terrible at picking fights.
Well, maybe that's what I'm going to bring to the show, Bill. My uneducated, lucky guesses.
Yeah, that could be. I mean,
There's something to it. When we used to go to amateur shows, there's something about just I could always pick it just by the walkout. And I know that's not saying much at amateur fights, but some of the pro fights we went to too. I don't know. Sometimes I just get a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a little easier with we lost Matt on the video.
What's going on?
I'm just seeing El Gato.
What's it saying? What's it telling me to do?
It says, please run camera hub to use El Gato virtual camera. All right. While we have Matt audio only, I'll talk about what he was saying in that, sometimes in amateur fights, it's easy to tell. And, I may suffer from a case of paralysis by analysis, so to speak, where I will dive too deep into the strengths and weaknesses of the fighters. And, maybe that's why I make bad picks. Maybe I just have bad luck. I know, like, my mom has extremely good luck. She can walk into a casino and win on a slot machine almost at will. And I do not have that. That was not passed down to me. So if there's some sort of luck gene, I don't have it. I do okay with the UFC gambling. I was using the my bookie app for several years. I put a few $100 in there, probably for 3 or 4 years, and I would be up sometimes, I would be down sometimes, but I never put any money in or took any out. And I've just recently broken even on that. So that was the end of an era. And now we totally lost Matt the mechanic. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about my weekend. I took a course with a guy by the name of Pete Peterson, who is the director of the WBC, which is a Muay Thai jurisdiction. And I took a course to become a certified official to referee and judge professional Muay Thai. And Matt, if you can hear me, it says your device is not connected. You need to connect your microphone before I can add you to the stream. So something's not plugged in. So the course was cool. It was 3 days. So it was intense. It was a lot. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is also why I did not do an episode this Sunday to break down UFC Vegas 91, because I was kind of tied up doing all this stuff to the point where I was too tired to even watch the fights when I got home on Saturday. But it was, the judging aspect was cool. We basically watched Muay Thai fights all day and learned how to score them properly. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things. I had some fights where, I scored them easily, and the instructor agreed with the scores that I gave, and I had some fights that I rewatched after hearing him break them down, and it turns out I had gotten them wrong. And then I had some that I disagreed with the instructor on. So there's a lot that goes into it. And remember, this is just scoring one aspect of fighting. It's only striking. So it made me have a little bit more sympathy for, everybody gets outraged when there's a bad decision in the UFC. There's a lot of pressure on those judges. I've judged MMA fights before. I've judged Muay Thai fights before. I've judged boxing fights before. It's a pressure cooker. And doing this course really opened my eyes to a lot of nuances with the judging. It's a lot more complex than we're led to believe. It's pretty easy to sit on your couch and say, like, oh, that was a bullshit decision. So-and-so clearly won. Well, what fight were they watching? Well, there's a lot that goes into that. It depends where the judge is sitting. Sometimes, they may not see certain strikes landing from their perspective. The judges are spread out around the cage or around the ring. So that was cool. And then the most fun part was on Sunday, we did role playing. So we would kind of play spar, and one person would role play as the referee, and we would have to pretend to foul each other. So the referee would have to break it up and deduct points. And, you have to be familiar with all the rules and everything like that. So it was cool. It was a fun experience. And I'm glad I did it. And now I can judge and referee professional and amateur Muay Thai. So I'm looking forward to having some of those experiences. Matt, I don't know how much of that you caught, or if any, but we have you back now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I'm back. We fixed it on the fly, baby.
All right. Well, that's why you're the mechanic. So what are you sipping on over there?
Oh, well, it's pay-per-view week, and usually I do that by drinking my favorite E.H. Taylor, but it seems we're pretending this week. So I got some Buffalo Trace, and I'm going to pretend it's E.H. Taylor.
Okay, fair enough. Same distillery. So it's just, the lower shelf version. I'm not sure if those two are the same mash bill or not.
I don't think so. I think it's a little rare, right?
Yeah, it might be. I'm also drinking something from that same family. I'm drinking Sazerac Rye. So Sazerac, actually the parent company of Buffalo Trace. So they're all in the same family. I definitely recommend Sazerac Rye. It comes out of Buffalo Trace, so of course it's a good product. It's a nice rye, not too spicy. A lot of honey on the finish, which is really nice. It's good in cocktails. My only advice would be don't overpay for this bottle. It should go for around $20. I wouldn't pay more than 30. What do you got dinging over there? You got some laundry?
Yeah, it's a cell phone. I think they chucked it.
Winner. That's all the money coming in from your
that's
your
all my
bets
bets
last
paying
week.
out. Dang, that
Good.
was happening Saturday. That was fun.
Yeah, you were hitting them left and right, except for the one that I picked for you.
Yeah.
So that's what we were getting into. So the one I talked you out of was Tim Means and Uros Medic, and boy, was I wrong on that one.
Yeah, it did not go well.
Yeah,
that was like the first. I turned it on and bow, he got knocked out. I'm like, shit.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it was a fun night of fights. Good night.
What are you gonna do?
Knucklemania was fun.
Knucklemania was okay.
I seem to remember you texted me that you watched one of the best bare knuckle fights you've ever watched.
I don't think that was me.
No, that was definitely you, because you're the only person I watched that. I think it might have been the gentleman that you might have been poking a little fun at.
Oh, that was wild. What was that guy's name?
I don't know.
That guy that looked like he was an extra from Twilight. Yeah, that fight was wild. But on the main card, we had 3 fights end due to injury.
Yeah, it got a little lame there. But
the Julian Lane's opponent tore his bicep. Then Ben Rothwell's opponent dislocated his shoulder or whatever happened. And Lorenzo Hunt tried to post his arm and snapped his arm in half or dislocated his elbow. That was pretty gruesome. And then Mike Perry beat up a 40-year-old former MMA fighter. Um, I'm glad that event was free if you had the bare knuckle app. I'll say that much. But that one fight was pretty crazy because that dude was getting the shit beat out of him, and then he pulled a knockout out of nowhere. He fought
Yeah.
like Homer Simpson.
Maybe you watched the show last week, and that was the last little bit of motivation he needed.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to pretend this is Bill Welker. The guy was beating the hell out of him, and at one point he had a handful of his hair, and he was just pulling his hair into the punches. And I think it was Mike Beltran was the referee, who you would think would be a little more sensitive to this since he's got a 9-foot beard. He's got that gnome beard going on. But yeah, I mean, Knucklemania was okay. I mean, it was definitely not even close to the best bare knuckle card ever. I wouldn't say it was even top 10.
Yeah, bare knuckle comes with some problems and some sideshows, but that's what I expect. I don't expect it to be as professional as the UFC or other organizations. It's
Especially now, especially now that it's owned by Conor McGregor partially. So that was their big announcement, which was kind of awkward because
he wasn't even there.
yeah, well, he wasn't there. He made like a video. It was like somebody accepting an award for an award show that they didn't want to be at.
Yeah.
If it's like,
What
I
is
don't
that?
know.
Just like a play where they give him some stock and he just kind of makes a video here and there. And
Yeah, well, he's going to have a vested interest now because if the promotion does well, he makes money. So, him with the platform that he has, however many millions and millions of followers he has, he can start promoting the events. And the better BKFC does, he gets a little kickback from it. So he has some motivation to promote the product, which is kind of win-win for both parties because the BKFC definitely doesn't have as big of a platform as Conor McGregor has. So here, if you have Conor McGregor telling people like, hey, you guys should check this out, I'm going to be watching the fights or I'm going to be at these fights, which if he's not at Knucklemania, I don't know which events he's going to be showing up for, but he can, use his reach and his audience to help boost the promotion a little bit. I don't know what it's costing them, if it's just, stake in the company or if they had to pay him some extra. I don't know the details of that deal, but it could be a good thing for the company if he's out there, pushing it and promoting it.
do you think that when you saw Feldman with Dana a couple months ago, do you think that was him asking permission pretty much?
It could have been, but I don't think he has to ask permission for that. Like there's nothing in the UFC fighters contracts that say they can't have stake in another company that would be possibly considered a competitor. Maybe they will have clauses in their contracts now. He couldn't compete for BKFC, but I don't think there's anything restricting him. But maybe out of respect, he went and asked Dana, like, hey, is it cool if we use Conor for this? And, Dana maybe would have taken that as like, taken that olive branch as a sign of respect and said, yeah, okay, go ahead. And maybe he would have been pissed off if they did it without asking. But yeah, so that's that. It was kind of awkward the way they did it. They had Mario Lopez interview what seemed to be an intoxicated Dave Feldman, who was kind of clumsily bringing up the announcement. He's like, we have a special announcement and it's this. And then they played the video, but the video wasn't queuing up right away. It was kind of like could have been a little bit better on the production end with the presentation of that announcement, but still cool nonetheless.
That's what BKFC. That's what I expect.
Yeah,
Just a little just throw a little bit of trailer park in there.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have this kind of mentality where you zero in on it. Like if you look at the ring, of BKFC and the surrounding area, that production is awesome. And the announcers do a great job. Sean Wheelock and Chris Lytle, they're awesome. Then if you start to pan out, if you ever start to see the crowd at
Yeah,
BK, everything starts to fall apart. And you're like,
the
oh,
wheels just start to fall off.
Jesus, is this a circus in Pasco County? Or is this a professional sporting event? Um, in any case, let's get into some UFC. Do you want to
Yeah,
let's start
let's get going.
let,
We seem to be firing on all cylinders tonight, so let's go.
yeah, let's start with UFC 301, and then I have a hot take that I want to
All right.
discuss with you. So the beginning of the card kicks off with Paul Craig coming into enemy territory against Cal Borralho, who has been on quite a hot streak in the UFC. Paul Craig has been hot and cold, but he's been doing pretty well since moving down to middleweight. Borralho has not lost a fight since 2015. And it's an interesting matchup, right? Because Borralho is going to be a little cleaner on the feet, but he's real slick on the ground too. Paul Craig might be a little slicker, but Borralho believes he's onto all of Paul Craig's tricks, and he knows how to avoid them, and he knows how to put pressure in the right places and get a knockout. So I don't know what the odds are here, but I would think Borralho would be a slight favorite.
So I think there's like the real contest on this card is who can be the bigger Brazilian favorite.
Okay.
And
Unless
it
you're
seems
Jose Aldo.
Borralho is the man at minus 650. Bear Jew is plus 470. And I'm gonna have to go with the odds here. You know, Craig, he's had a rough go of it. I think you touched on it. I think people kind of figured him out. They what's the term? They know the blueprint. I noticed this week the main star of Embedded has been Borralho. He's got definitely the most screen time. He's actually a pretty likable guy, but I definitely think he gets this done.
Well spoken. As far as the Brazilian stars go, he's got some of the better English, which is going to take him a long way. The neck tattoos combined with the, the idea
Nerdy
of,
glasses.
yeah, him presenting himself as a nerd, like, oh, I'm a fight nerd. And he is, supposedly the guy is very diligent about studying tape and he takes this really seriously. Um, Even though you wouldn't think it by looking at him, like, look at this guy with his neck tattoos. He looks like a thug. Um, but no, actually, really intelligent guy, really high fight IQ. The number is tempting. I wouldn't tell you to change your pick, but to get Paul Craig at such a big underdog number when he's, 1-1 in middleweight, uh, is definitely tempting. But
There's actually three giant underdogs we're going to talk about. These next three fights. We'll add an extra bet. We'll try something different. Instead of you changing one of my picks, you're just going to add a bonus bet onto it.
okay.
You'll get a pick. We'll give you $1 on the biggest, on whatever underdog you want.
So out of the three big underdogs, I have to pick one.
These first three fights, just pick the one underdog you want to go.
All right. Well, I guess another one is going to be this fight, Michel Pereira and Ihor Potieria.
Yep.
So how big of a favorite is Michel Pereira?
He's minus 600 versus Ihor at 455.
I love how you say Eeyore, like the Winnie the Pooh character.
Isn't that how you say it?
I thought it was Ihor.
All right. Well, you go with Ihor. I'll go with Ihor.
Yeah. I mean, Eeyore, I like Eeyore better.
Yeah, Ihor is much better than the Duelist. He should be Ihor.
I feel like that's probably, like, it probably sounds a lot cooler in Ukrainian, whatever his nickname is. Like, there's probably a cool word for it, and it just translates to the Duelist. This is an interesting one because Potieria, he had a good showing on the Contender Series, and then he lost his UFC debut, and then he kind of retired Mauricio Shogun Rua, so he's definitely coming into enemy territory here. I feel like he's not going to be the type of guy to be affected by that, though. Back-to-back knockout losses after that, and then he won a unanimous decision against Robert Bryzchek back in February. So what are the odds here again?
It's minus 600 versus plus 455. I'm going to go ahead and make my pick. I don't see. I'm going to take Piera here. I'm going to make the odds a little better and take him by TKO. So I'm going to change those odds to minus 150. Ehor seems like he gets a little hit a lot. He's a little chinny. We've seen him been hurt.
Yeah, and he's been knocked out twice in the UFC.
Yeah.
And Pereira is big for a middleweight. I don't know how that guy ever made 170.
Has he missed at middleweight yet?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I'm going to go by knockout. He's dressed to the nines on the embedded. He's having fun.
Okay.
We could see all these underdogs lose, but I'm going safe this week. And there's the next fight is the other one, and then you can make your decision.
Yeah, so Anthony Smith against the undefeated Vitor Petrino, who called out Anthony Smith after his last win over Tyson Pedro, where, he looked good. He hasn't been in there with an elite fighter yet. He's got wins over, Tyson Pedro, who, when he shows up is elite, but when he doesn't, he's not. And then he knocked out Modestas Bukauskas, Marcin Prachnio, and these are all very good fighters. He hasn't broken into that, upper echelon yet. And so we just don't know. We know Anthony Smith is battle tested. So Anthony Smith ranked number 10 going into this. And Anthony Smith has been known to play spoiler against some of these younger guys before. So it's a big step up in competition for Petrino. He's going up against a lot more experience. This is like the 56th or 57th fight or something for Anthony Smith. But then at the same time, Anthony Smith can be hot and cold as well. If he's not fighting a guy named Ryan Spann, he hasn't had a good winning streak.
Yeah.
In quite a few years.
Ankalaev, Roundtree, Walker.
Yeah. All more up and coming guys who he had a hard time with. But, he was able to play spoiler against guys like Jimmy Crute, Devin Clark, Ryan Spann, of course. Man, this will be interesting because my gut says, well, first of all, tell me your pick for this one.
Did I say the odds? I don't think so.
No, tell me the odds.
Plus 425 for Anthony Smith and minus 575 for Petrino. I love Anthony Smith. I think one of the first fights I saw of his must have been his knockout against with Hector Lombard. That one really sticks out to me. I'm not saying that that whole invasion he had is what changed it, but it seems like that is the time. Maybe it's the time he started getting on the desk at the UFC, but it seems like something's changed. Or it could be him just getting older. But he hasn't shown me anything recently that will make me think he's going to get the win this weekend. So I'll take Petrino.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, my heart kind of says exactly what I was saying last week about the Tim Means fight with Uros Medic, where, experience will come into play and and will come out on top. That's also, the older dog in me talking that wants to give Anthony Smith the best chance. Out of the 3 underdogs, if I had to pick one, I'd have to say Potieria, because Michel Pereira, I feel like, can get a little bit too flashy sometimes, which leaves him open. And we know Potieria has knockout power. He can catch him. So, if Pereira comes out there and fights like he's been fighting and he's composed, he's going to blow Potieria out of the water. But I think out of these 3 big underdogs, I think Potieria has a puncher's chance, which is the best chance to have. That one punch knockout power is better than having experience and being a huge underdog, and it's better than being a submission artist and being a huge underdog, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with my brain instead of my gut and pick Potieria, but I don't really like any of their chances.
So
let's put the dollar on Ihor Potieria.
Poteria by straight up or by knockout?
By knockout.
Okay, so we're going to change that to plus.
So what does my dollar win me? How many millions?
Your dollar would win you $9.
All right.
That's a damn good bet, Bill. If we would have put $1,000 on my original picks last week, we'd be in the Bahamas by now.
Damn. Why didn't you do that?
Well, if I did, it would have ran with your pick, and we'd been sitting here out with $1,000.
That's what would happen. Like, you could, if you picked like 8 weeks in a row, royal flush every week. All right, let's put $1,000 on the next one.
All right, here we go.
We would just be losing $1,000.
Yep. I played DraftKings long enough that I know that's impossible.
Yeah. Well, that's something that, people who are addicted to gambling don't come to terms with. All right. I can tell you an underdog that I would bet on, and that's Jose Aldo in the co-main event against Jonathan Martinez. I understand why Jonathan Martinez is the favorite, but if you really look at it, Jose Aldo's not out of this fight by any means. This is not a given. This should not be as much of a landslide in the odds as the previous 3 fights we talked about. Well, what are the odds? And
it's not that big of a. It's plus 124, minus 148.
And I think that's about right. And Aldo has been inactive in MMA, but he did a couple of boxing fights and he looked good. Obviously, he's stayed in shape. He's still only 37 years old. This guy somehow has been fighting for 45 years, and he's only 37 years old. That's just what the math works out to with Jose Aldo. But tell me who you're picking first, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on this.
I agree with everything you said, but the one thing that bugs me is he's talking about, this is my last fight on the contract. I'm doing this so I can come back and go start boxing again. I just don't. I don't like when guys look past fights, especially a guy like Jonathan Martinez. I'm going to go with the favorite here again.
Okay. Now, what do you see in Jonathan Martinez that makes you think he's going to beat Aldo? Where does he get it done?
He's got some nasty leg kicks, and I know that Aldo's about the best checker in the game, but I don't know. Got to go with my gut.
I mean, he's not getting it to the ground. And Merab couldn't take Aldo down, so he's going to have to do it with his strikes. His boxing is not as good as Aldo's, so his strength is going to be in the kicks, which is also a strength of Aldo's. Jose's only loss in his last 4 fights was to Merab, and he just got held against the cage. And now he's back in August 2022. You know, he hasn't been gone that long. It's not like, and this isn't, when he said he was coming back, I didn't get the same feeling I got when other guys have come back. Like, oh no, why are you doing this? I got, oh, Aldo's coming back. You know, he lost that fight against Merab, but Merab might be the best bantamweight on the planet, and he didn't do horribly against him.
I don't know, Bill. I did get that feeling when I saw that. I don't know. This is definitely the pick I'm the least unsure about, and I'm about to make a crazy pick. So,
Yeah, I mean, I like Aldo's chances in this when you break it down on paper. But Jonathan Martinez is a super talented fighter. I mean, he's on a hell of a winning streak too. I mean, if you look at it, he just TKO'd Adrian Yanez with the leg kicks. He has 2 TKOs with the leg kicks. He has a win over Nurmagomedov. 6 wins in a row. It's going to be a fun fight. I think it's going to be interesting, and it's not like we're going to see. My point was, we're not going to see a washed up Jose Aldo, right? I mean, he was competitive in his last fight against a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is probably the best bantamweight out there in Merab. And look at Merab manhandled an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling in his last fight, and he couldn't get Jose Aldo down, which says a lot about the takedown defense of Jose Aldo. I think it's a really interesting matchup. We could see a changing of the guard, or we could see the old dog come out there and spank the young kid around. And I think that's what's intriguing about this fight. And I'm super interested in it, although I still don't believe that this card is like pay-per-view caliber. But
we're playing make believe.
Yeah, we're also coming off of UFC 300, which is like a really high bar to compare.
Yeah, I could have made my hot take that we don't need UFC 300 again, like for the last 3 shows.
Yeah, and that brings me to the main event, which I'm much more excited for the co-main event than I am the main event. I mean, this fight is fine, but it's not like, if this card is kind of dragging on and it gets pretty late, I don't see myself staying up for this, to be honest. I'm not like, I need to see Alexandre Pantoja and Steve Erceg. I can't go to sleep without knowing the results. It's just not that kind of fight for me. And I think it speaks to the depth of the flyweight division. We've kind of seen all the best matchups, and now we're kind of like, well, what else can we do here? And this is the fight we're left with. We have Steve Erceg, who, looked fantastic in his last fight against Matt Schnell. And he's 3-0 in the UFC. Did you see the comparison where it said that Steve Erceg made his UFC debut after Bilal Muhammad's last fight?
Yeah, I sent that to you, Bill.
Oh, right. Well,
yeah. And also, there's another interesting fact is Steve Erceg is entering an elite club of fighters that have fought for the belt in less than 4 fights in the UFC, and every single one of those fighters obtained the belt that night.
How many are there?
4 or 5.
So Alex Pereira must be one of them.
That's Pereira, Brock,
Daniel Cormier.
No.
Huh.
Silva, the Holly Holm, and one more.
Does Ronda Rousey count?
I don't know. It wasn't on the Instagram. I was watching Instagram, Bill.
She made it with 0 fights. She just came to the UFC and they made her champion.
Oh.
That's what happened with her. I don't know if you remember that, because she was the champion in Strikeforce.
No, I don't remember that.
When Strikeforce was acquired. So when she came to the UFC, they just said, okay, you're the champion.
She's still making headlines too, Bill.
That's true. We should get into that, but first, give me your pick on the main event, I guess.
Mr. Jackpot.
So I'm just winging it this week. The main event, I'm going to take Steve Erceg, TKO, round 2.
What does that pay out for you?
$19.
To bet $1?
Yep. I've been going back and forth between the second and the third. I get 2 more bucks for the third, but I don't know. Something's telling me around 2. I don't know. I was watching this guy in his presser interview. He just seems chill. He wore the dad button up to his face off. I don't know, man. He's been there 2 weeks. He's acclimated. He's like, I was worried about the fans here, and I've been in the favelas. I've been playing soccer. I don't know. He seems to me like he understands that he's meant to lose this fight. He has nothing to lose, and I think he's just gonna send it.
That's oftentimes the most dangerous man. His striking is a lot cleaner than Pantoja's. A lot cleaner. Like if this was going to be a point striking match, Erceg would blow Pantoja out of the water. But Pantoja is just a dog. He has so much fight in him, and he likes to make things gritty and dirty. He likes to hang on you and wear on you. He will take some big shots to give some shots, and he'll do anything he can to climb up your back and try and strangle you. However, if he can't get this fight to the ground, he's going to be in trouble against Steve Erceg on the feet. I mean, Steve Erceg, his vision and the crispness of his striking is very impressive. I'm going to share the breakdown I did of Erceg's knockout against Matt Schnell, but when you slow that knockout down, you see how impressive he really is, because he loads all his weight to throw a hook to the body, and then he sees that Schnell drops his guard to defend the body shot, and he changes the target mid-strike and lands the hook to the jaw, which knocked out Matt Schnell cold. So it's that kind of the vision and precision that really impresses me with Steve Erceg, and I would say he's several levels above Pantoja in terms of striking acumen. However, Pantoja just wins fights, and he's just a dog. He'll make it a dog fight. So I guess talking through this, I'm a little more excited about the fight now, but on paper, I'm like, I don't really care about this.
Yeah, I think this whole card might not. I mean, for us hardcore fans, it might not be the best, but this is definitely going to be on in my living room on nerd night, and I bet you it gets a lot of attention from my casual friends.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be some firefights on here. I mean, with this many Brazilians on the crowd, I mean, on the card, the crowd's gonna be going nuts. Jack Shore and Joe Anderson Brito is gonna be absolute fireworks, and that's the main fight of the prelims. You have Carolina Kovalevich going into enemy territory against Yasmin Lucindo. And then my favorite fighter to say his name, McTybeck Oralby, is getting in there with Elvis Brenner. So that'll be fun. I'm pulling for Oralby there just because I want to see him get on a main card, just so we can break down McTybeck Oralby on the main event of a fight night or something like that. Joaquin Silva and Drakkar Klose is a fun fight. And then if you go way down the card, Ismail Bonfim and Vince Pichel, that fight should be absolute fireworks. Those are two dogs that can hit really hard. That might be my sleeper pick of this whole card. Those are two guys who come out for war every time. And Ismail, had a tough showing in his last fight, but I mean, he was in there with Benoit Saint Denis, who turns out is
Yeah.
a fucking assassin. So I still see big things on the horizon for both of the Bonfims, but I think Ismail is going to be looking to have a spectacular showing here in Brazil, and Vince Pichel has no problem playing the spoiler, so I think that's a really exciting fight.
All right.
So that's
What's your
that.
hot take?
Oh yeah, okay. So hot take or take a shot, and I don't think you're going to necessarily disagree with me here because all right, this is something I saw on Instagram, and it comes from a local black belt in the area that you and I think are both familiar with. And he put a post on Instagram, and I'm not going to say who it was. And I'm partially convinced that this post was a troll job to try and get engagement. But what he said was, if you're doing another martial art, you should stop doing it because jiu-jitsu is the best martial art, and that's the martial art you should be doing. And the example he gave was Muay Thai. He's like, a Muay Thai fighter wouldn't know what to do if you grabbed a hold of him. Now, this is an ignorant comment or he's intentionally troll baiting, because Muay Thai involves what's called a clinch, which is basically standing grappling. It involves a lot of sweeps and throws, knees and elbows. So if you do grab a hold of a Muay Thai fighter, you're definitely going to regret it, because they're going to knee you in the face and break your ribs and elbow you in the mouth. And in any case, I just wholeheartedly disagree with this in general. I think jiu-jitsu is great for self-defense. However, there's the old saying, if you get punched in the face once as a black belt, you become a brown belt. If you get punched again, you become a purple belt, etc., and so on. Now, I know a lot of jiu-jitsu schools do, punch block systems and defending against attackers who strike, but there's no actual striking involved. In any case, the hot take of this gentleman was that you should stop practicing any other martial art and just train jiu-jitsu, which I find absurd.
I mean, was this context only if you weren't worrying about self-defense, or just if you were?
No, it was jiu-jitsu is the best.
Okay, well that's silly, because I mean,
It's been disproven.
Well, yeah, like what happens if you're a 12-year-old? You should probably wrestle, not do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Is gunfighting a martial art? Because that would be the best martial art, in my opinion, if you want to be concerned about.
There is an art to that.
That's a stupid one. I'm not agreeing with that either.
Yeah, and even
and it should be noted that I belong to a self-defense jiu-jitsu gym.
Yeah, and even if the point is for self-defense, if you are training Muay Thai and you're good at it, you don't need to stop training Muay Thai to train jiu-jitsu. And if you're a good Muay Thai practitioner, you can defend yourself just fine.
Yeah. The caveat that I would have agreed with him if he would have said you have absolutely zero martial arts training. Jiu-jitsu is probably the one you should try.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you are, you're worried about getting beat up at the school pickup line, like picking up your kids because you're kind of like a frail person or something like that. And I know people who have had this story where they've gotten into altercations as parents, and they wanted to find out a way to defend themselves. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is great, but I would never say if you're training at another martial art and you're doing well with it and you can fight, I wouldn't say you need to stop doing that to go and do jiu-jitsu. I would say it would be great to know some jiu-jitsu, like definitely try it out and learn the basics. But if you're a Muay Thai fighter, and the average person on the street is not gonna be able to do much to you either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 7 years in, and I'd be scared to be attacked by a guy with 6 months of boxing.
Yeah, for sure. And I say all this as a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's not the first thing I would use in self-defense. Now, granted, sometimes you might not have a choice, but first of all, I would try to use my words. Secondly, I would try and run away. And third of all, I would just leg kick the shit out of somebody if it came down to it.
Yeah,
But I'm not taking a fight to the ground in the street if I can help it. That would be probably a last resort for me. My brown belt in jiu-jitsu is one of the last skills I would want to use in a street fight. That would be like, all right, this is the Hail Mary.
yeah. Use your running away and your words and your guns for self-defense, and use your jiu-jitsu on your friends that don't train, and it's a lot of fun. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Use your
so much
jiu-jitsu
fun.
to bully people.
Yeah, you bully your friends.
That should be the slogan for jiu-jitsu. Bully your friends.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was the other person's hot take. It was not mine, and so I guess we both disagree with it. So
That's it. We don't have to take it, and I'm glad, because I was back up to this peppermint schnapps that I'd been terrified to take it.
I'm gonna have to come up with a spicy
I'm
hot
gonna
take.
reload this week.
Do you want to get into the Ronda Rousey stuff?
No, I have a list of news, and I'm gonna rapid fire a whole bunch of topics. You pick one, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, throw them at me.
The guru guy called John Jones gay.
What?
Chandler pissed some people off because he adopted some kids. Dylan Dennis wants Paige Van Zandt to peg him. Al- Alex Pereira signed a contract in Brazil this week, and he took pictures in a fight kit for like the fight. He was not wearing championship clothes. Diego Lopez and Armin Sarukian lost money from their 300 purses. And Ryan Garcia tested positive for Osterine. That's rapid fire.
Okay.
Headlines.
I gotta say, I'm curious as to why the guru guy called John Jones gay.
He called John Jones gay because of UFC 300, and in the lack of headlines that are going on. So he needed some views. So he put together a 45-minute video of his argument on why John Jones is gay. And you know how the flat earthers have like a couple little things they'll say, and they'll be like, oh, make you think like, oh, maybe. So he had a couple of those in there.
Did you watch the whole 45 minutes?
No, but I watched a guy that did watch the 45, and he showed me he pointed out silly shit that, like, recently when he was at the comedy club drunk, he was with another guy, and the back and forth was a little odd. But
Okay. I mean, the type of comedy I enjoy, I'd probably, sooner go with a guy friend than
but
go with my
I mean,
wife.
he broke it down very. They said some weird things to each other.
Okay.
But that was it, and then John took a couple of days. He just responded today and just basically called him a loser in his basement. But I'm gonna see how many views he got.
Probably not too far off then. That's like, but he got John Jones to respond, so
yeah, he got him to respond.
That's kind of a win. This is the same guy who a few weeks ago was like, the only thing that brings me happiness is MMA, and it hasn't made me happy in a long time. This is the
Yeah, he
same.
looks like a little gremlins or like a hobbit sitting in his basement.
Yeah.
But come to find out, he's like a pretty large guy. He got 500,000 views,
Okay.
and he usually does about 100.
Huh. So it worked for him.
It worked, but really, is that what you want to your plan to work? Like, and even if Mr. Jones is gay, who cares?
I mean, for me, no. For me, that would never be the goal, which is why
Which is why we have like 2 people watching right
which is
now.
why well, there's 13 people watching now. And
Okay.
then, there'll be a few hundred coming in, and then close to 1,000 on the audio. And cumulatively there have been a lot of people who have seen this show, but I would never want to. First of all, I would never want to make something personal with an MMA fighter. I tend to stay away from the outside of the cage drama. I've addressed some of the John Jones stuff, but I certainly wouldn't get into anyone's sexual orientation. One, because I don't really care. Um,
And it's
I
2024, and if someone would be gay, who cares?
Yeah, I would prefer that John Jones be gay
Yeah, that'd be
than
pretty neat.
be in an abusive relationship with a female. That would be better. I think that would be fantastic. Be in a healthy relationship with a man, instead of you know getting into all kinds of shenanigans with an opposite sex partner. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I would never. And sometimes a lot of this stuff comes up, like some controversial things, and I'll address them here and there, but I would never make like a slam piece about it.
Yeah,
Because then
it was a slam piece, and he spent some time preparing it too.
yeah, it's not about MMA anymore. Then it's about getting attention. Um, which, if that's his goal, then it worked. He got John Jones to respond. He got his 500,000 views. But it also sounds like a guy who is very unfulfilled with his life, and even achieving these types of things are not going to change that. When I saw the clip of him saying, MMA is the only thing that brings him happiness, and it hasn't brought him happiness in a long time, I felt bad for the guy. I'm like, this is a very empty feeling way to go through life, and it's kind of sad if he has to do stuff like this to get some sort of fulfillment. So I hope he's able to find something else to fill whatever void he's got from whatever kind
Yeah,
of
he's got about 2
facing.
weeks. It's 302s in about 2-3 weeks. He'll be good.
Okay, then he'll be set.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so that's that. The other one that jumped out to me was Lopez and someone else had money taken away from
Okay.
their purses.
So this was one of my hot takes that I wanted to make. And so Diego Lopez and Armin Sarukian, they both have money taken out of their fight purses because of outside the cage and inside the cage things. Armin Sarukian, I agree with. He punched that guy that was flipping him off while he's walking out.
Okay.
But Diego got money taken because he jumped on the cage after the fight.
Oh.
And the reason why I want to make that a hot take, because he got fined, and I know that the UFC didn't fine him, but the UFC's already using that picture of him sitting on the cage as promotional material.
Okay.
And like I know that they don't want people to climb up on the cage. I've never been in the cage, but climbing up on the cage doesn't seem too dangerous considering what they just did. I mean, it's not, how high is it? 8 foot?
No, it's not even that high anymore. It used to be 6 feet, but now like a lot of the guys seem to tower over it.
But anyway, the guy, we see all these pictures of people sitting on the cage with their hands raised. It's an awesome, it's part of the sport.
Yeah.
It's like chugging the milk at the Indy 500. Why are guys getting fined? And you know, he's got to. I saw it on his Instagram. He's got to fly back to Vegas to go sit in front of the commission to answer for this, and it just seems stupid.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of answered the resolution, because if they're using that picture for promotion, then the UFC definitely paid the fine for him. So it's a wash anyway. It's not going to cost them any money. I'm sure they paid to fly him back out there. They probably, took him out to a nice dinner while he's there. He got some training at the PI. So the headline becomes he gets fined for doing this, but the behind the scenes is they paid the fine for him. They probably gave him a little extra for his trouble. They flew him out to Vegas and probably gave him some free PR training along the way. With Saryukian, yeah, don't fucking punch a fan.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, there should be a suspension involved in that as well. And yeah, definitely fine that guy.
Although that's a hell of a story, though. You know, I was the guy that got punched at UFC 300.
Yeah, imagine that. You who would expect that? Like, you flip off the guy,
Yeah,
just because
he just drills you.
Yeah, he just comes over there and punches you.
Well, that's what the guy said. He's like, he apologized. He's like, I'm not going to press charges. I didn't. He missed. He's like, I didn't really expect it. I was just in the moment. I flipped the bird, and he threw a punch. And he's like, just give me UFC 302 tickets or 303 or whatever that is.
Yeah, did they give him the tickets?
I hope not.
Why?
Because I don't know. I would never ask that.
If you get almost punched by a UFC fighter to the point where he got fined and you're not going to press charges, like, at least ask for something. Couldn't hurt.
No. If I woke up the next morning and that was me, I would just go, whew, I'm glad that worked. I'm glad I didn't get, I just cut my losses.
It reminds me of The Hangover. Like, he just took a punch from Mike Tyson. You have to go into the room with the tiger.
Yeah. Yeah. If I woke up the next morning and like have faint memories of Armin Sarukian whiffing on me, I'm just like, it's a good memory. Call it quits.
And our producer by proxy from across the globe says, Mark Fellows says that Dana paid the fine for Lopez, so I think they were cool with the celebration. Yeah, exactly what I thought. I mean, without even knowing that for sure, that's exactly what I would have assumed, especially because they love this kid. So, yeah, they're not going to let him pay that fine. I'm sure they showed him a nice time when he came out to Vegas as well. Yeah, but fuck Saryukian. You don't have to go swinging on fans. And even if he did hit him, our buddy Matt Frivola says he hits like a bitch anyway. So there's that. Yeah, there's a lot of insecurity going on with that guy. He's always trying to fight people backstage and swinging on fans. And that guy's a walking time bomb. I don't think any of the other stories really jumped out to me because I don't remember any of them. But was there one that you were really hoping to talk about?
No. I mean, I think that was my point of the blitz of headlines, because all these headlines don't have anything to do with anything in the cage.
Sure.
It's just a slow week. The one thing that's interesting to me is Bisping wants to fight Luke Rockhold in that karate crap. I don't know if that's possible, but I'd watch it.
Well, would they sanction him for it?
Is there a sanctioning body for fighting karate on the American Ninja Warrior set? Or
Yeah, it's got to be sanctioned. Any type of combat sport has to be sanctioned if it's done in the States, because he was lying about his eye during his fight career.
He can't lie about that anymore.
Right, which is why I'm wondering if he can get sanctioned. But then again, what's his name? The scary ginger Russian dude. He can only fight overseas because of his eye. Yeah, Sharabutin.
Maybe they do it. Oh, maybe they do it overseas, and maybe it works for Bisping because he could. They have that weird angled, like wall where like Bisping could use that to help protect his blind side, which is kind of interesting.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I saw the highlight of Luke Rockhold knocking out Joe Schilling, which was kind of weird because Joe Schilling had always fought at 170. I think he's not a huge guy. Rockhold is a big dude. I don't know how the weight classes work in karate combat, but I would imagine Rockhold's a lot bigger than Joe Schilling.
He looked it.
Yeah, I mean Rockhold walks around like well over 200 pounds. All right.
We'll see.
That we will.
What are we going to talk about next week? What's the next card?
I don't know.
It is Derek Lewis.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Yeah. Joaquin Buckley is the co-main event. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to talk about this. I plan to get back to doing the Sunday show this week. Like I said earlier, I didn't do it this weekend because I was busy doing my WBC official certification, which I did complete, and it was really fun. I definitely recommend it for anyone who trains Muay Thai. Definitely don't quit Muay Thai to train Jiu-Jitsu. But if you want to learn a lot more about it, take the course if it comes into your neck of the woods with Pete Peterson. He was just such a wealth of Muay Thai knowledge, really opened my eyes to the nuances of judging and refereeing. And, I look forward to refereeing some fights and judging some pro fights down the line. And, now I have the certification to do so. So that should be fun. If you guys want to grab some MMA on the Rocks merchandise, the link is in the show notes. As always, it's reaper1.co. You can use the promo code MMA Rocks 10. Get yourself an over-the-top, under the influence t-shirt, tank top, or hoodie. Hoodies are not big sellers this time of year, especially here in the great state of Florida, where it's been consistently almost 90 degrees with no rain in sight. So there's that. And yeah, let me know. Send me your hot takes on social media because we're always looking for different hot takes every week to talk about. We have the hot take or take a shot segment. I want to hear what your hot takes are. So send me some good ones and I'll bring them up on the air. Anything else you want to get off your chest, Matt?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So that's all. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.